Is a theme underfoot, and this morning it's called Celebrating Service. One of the things that we put out in our newsletter was an invitation, and if you saw that, well, there are several, there always are. One of them is after I give my talk to share with us if you have an experience of volunteering or giving service that has moved you, that you would like to tell us about. We're celebrating service for a couple of reasons. Centers for Spiritual Living just started an annual tradition on Saturday of something called World Day of Service. And it is intended to follow on the heels of the World Day of Prayer, which is from Unity, and just to keep something going and take it to the next level. And we're so new, and we were so occupied doing all kinds of wonderful things that we didn't organize a campaign and run out and buy t-shirts and show up out there. Something amazing is happening right here that is all about our being ready and able and having the capacity to serve out there. So one thing I would like to do is have everyone who's on that team that's planning our first anniversary party, please raise their hand. Look at all these wonderful people. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's what they've been doing for 2 weeks now, putting their heads and hearts together and finding a way to celebrate this Center for Spiritual Living Palm Beach's first birthday. So that is a lot. Thank you. So celebrating service. Well, service is that physical act, maybe of holding a door open or letting someone else have that parking space or letting someone into traffic or saying, no, you go ahead, I only have a few things. You know, that sort of thing. That happens all the time. And that's really easy to recognize. Another type of service is the spiritual principle behind it. And when we stop to recognize that, we see that love is there. There is a serving that we're aware of and the kind that we're unaware of. And it's very interesting because it came up in what Frida just shared. There are those things that we know that we're taking part in or witnessing. And there are those things which we don't realize that we're taking part in or witnessing. And they all have some element of service within them. They all have some spiritual element within them. And the key is to discover what those are. Service is also mutually beneficial because both for the giver and the receiver and the witness, if you've noticed something wonderful like that happening in public and it makes you smile and you weren't even involved, you were involved as a witness. And even in that, there is something to give thanks for. It is of service. So it's mutually beneficial. Service is also unifying. Service moves us from the I am to the we are, from the individual to the collective. It moves us from being solo to collaborating. Service is also empowering and multiplying. Because something happens when service takes place, especially once we recognize the spiritual principle of loving behind it, of creating, of co-creating behind it. There's something that happens that causes increase. So those are some of the spiritual principles that are also involved in service. All we need to know is, number one, how to celebrate, which would be to recognize, give thanks, applaud, shine a light, appreciate. Those are a few ways to celebrate. Maybe throw a party, or just send a note, or give somebody a hug, or give them a call, or just stop for a moment to acknowledge. And the other thing is to be able to recognize service when it's happening. Now, like I said, there are the physical acts of service which are really easy to spot. And even then, we might just say, I might come home and tell Rick, oh gosh, I saw this woman do this wonderful thing for someone she didn't even know today, and it was just awesome. What would it be like if I stopped my day to go over and tell them that and say, you know, what you just did really touched me, so thank you. Wouldn't that increase the blessing somehow? So we could consider that. Now, recognizing spiritual principles and celebrating them takes a little bit more, but not much, because we're wired to recognize them. We're made of them. We're wired to recognize love. We're wired to recognize giving. We're wired to recognize life. We're wired to recognize creativity and beauty. So if we paused again, even privately, and it's even better if you share it with somebody, to celebrate the fact that we are witnessing and experiencing service happening in our lives on a spiritual level, we will be enriched. We will be enriched. Remember that these spiritual principles multiply, unify, and they're contagious too. So we start with the obvious, then we move to the spiritual principles, and with all of the serving that we're aware of, we do the same thing. The short version of this, of celebrating service, is called Look for the Good and Praise It. Karen Drucker wrote a beautiful song that has a chorus in there about looking for the good and praising it, and I don't know it yet, so I'll just find out what CD it's on and we'll tell each other later. But the short version, to keep in your pocket, so to speak, is look for the good and praise it. And you practice with the easy stuff. And move to, okay, I can easily notice those things. Now I can look at spiritual principles that are behind those acts and become familiar with them. And then those things become amplified and multiplied in our lives. And that beauty becomes richer. We do that with the easy stuff. So here's the other part. All of those wonderful spiritual principles make up what I call your spiritual trail mix. You will need it, including all the nuts for protein and all the M&Ms for sweetness when you're not sure what you're up to, because there's one other type of service to be able to recognize and to celebrate. And that is the kind that you don't realize is going on. You may not realize that you're participating in it, playing a role in someone else's experience. You may not realize that someone is doing it for you because all you can see about them is other stuff. You may not realize that the way a set of circumstances is unfolding is for you because it appears to be against you. This is the other kind of service to celebrate. You really do the same thing, but just insert these words. Learn how to celebrate service in these areas of our lives. And there's a big reward for it. There's an absolutely awesome payoff, I should say, because when we get these things, when we're willing to stop and look and listen, and find something to celebrate. And when we're able to do that, we have the opportunity not to repeat those experiences again and again and again. We can actually evolve beyond them. So, how do you celebrate these things that look like the lemons from which you're going to have to make lemonade? The pile of you-know-what that has a pony in it somewhere, right? Or that situation or that circumstance that's either unfolding right now, or maybe it did long ago, and you have regrets about it. You're troubled about it. There's something about it that sort of holds you hostage because it's unresolved. Those are the things. If you can learn how to look for the good and praise it in those situations, you will get a great payoff. You'll be freed. The other thing is that the other players in it will also be freed. The interesting thing about the universe, which you may have heard, is that it always says yes. It operates in the affirmative. And what that means is that there is this creative responsive medium that gives back, that reflects back, that takes form, that offers a perfect mirror image or even a roadmap of exactly what we are thinking and feeling and believing for any length of time. Thankfully, you have to focus on something long enough to set it in motion, and frightfully, that doesn't take very long. So, what happens is the universe always says yes. And we're entertaining this idea that in all things there must be something to be grateful for. That there is some form of loving service in every event and every experience. Okay? So how do those two concepts work together? If the universe always says yes, if the creative medium always responds exactly according to what I impress upon it, that means that there's a relationship between what I'm experiencing and what I think and feel and believe. Okay. Well, I don't know about you, but I've had some pretty interesting experiences with that. I got hired for a job in Canada, sold everything, moved across the country with my love, 3,500 miles, got to the border, and they said no. And believe me, we went for several weeks. It was actually, not coincidentally, 40 days and 40 nights of OMG, over and over and over and over again. At the time, I was heartbroken. I was devastated. I was angry. Don't you know what we've been through to come this far? Do you know how grateful I am that didn't work out? At the time, I called my family crying and weeping, We spent all our money, we did all this, and now they're saying no, we have no jobs, nowhere to go. What did we do? We prayed, affirmatively, by the way. We picked up the phone, we moved our feet, we did what was next, we asked for guidance, we got it, and we went on our way, and everything that happened afterwards was perfect. Every single thing that happened was part of our becoming who we are today and doing what we're doing right now. At the time, I didn't think so. But I've learned a little bit about looking for the good and praising it. They say that when you're at the end of your rope, tie a knot. Well, that's what this was. So this is a kind of metaphysical knot you want to know how to tie. You want to know how to tie that knot when it seems like all opportunities are exhausted and there's nothing left. Because there is. There's so much more. And what you're being called to let go of is what's just not serving you anymore. So the universe always says yes. There's a pony in here somewhere. The lemonade tastes pretty good. You'll thank me later. Okay, this is the philosophy we're going into. So we look at the stuff that's unfolding in our lives and we say, okay. Okay, so somehow this person, these situations, these circumstances are reflecting back to me something for me to know. Something for me to be filled. Something for me to succeed. What would that be? You begin by being willing to ask that question and being willing to look in that way. And once you do, the answers will be there. There's a neat thing about discovery. And that is that once one person makes a discovery, whether it's one of the 100 monkeys or it's one of 6.5 billion and growing people on this planet, when one person makes a discovery, that discovery is easier for everyone else thereafter. And a lot of people have made a lot of great discoveries. They've even written books about them. You can just go pick one up if you want to and find out that there's a lot that has been discovered about how all this works. You can make appointments and go sit with someone who can help you to understand it better. You can come to a class. And those of us who are doing Science of Mind 101, anybody in the room right now, and Pamela is, we have about 6 or 7 of us who are doing Science of Mind 101, and we're going, okay, what does that mean? We're learning it together. So, everyone and everything that shows up in your life is an exact form, an affirmation. It is the form. It is the stuff of the universe taking form according to our belief. And then we can say that it is also an exact embodiment of what we have been believing so far. It is an exact expression of what we have been believing so far. Take a deep breath. If you don't like it, that's okay. You didn't know. Another deep breath. Forgive yourself. Another deep breath. Forgive and thank the people who played a role in your discovery. And keep going. Because this reflection is like a roadmap. It will take you, if you're willing, directly to that one spot in your programming that is in the way of your good. That one spot in your believing that's still that old stuff. So your good can't get in there and can't be embodied and expressed and experienced by you in that way because that place is occupied. It's like the little, the lavatory on an airplane. The sign says, occupied. Well, if you want to create a vacancy for something new to take place in that area, let those situations and circumstances guide you to that exact spot where that false idea is being allowed to grow and to activate the creative medium and show up as all this stuff. There's a very interesting thing when we're able to get that far and say, wow, thank you. I started to think of this border crossing, this border enforcement agent as an angel with a bulletproof vest. I mean, she was serious, And we did get to go, obviously, be there, one day at a time for 40 days, and finally got the call that said you have to leave Canada in 1 week. Okay, so this Sunday celebration will be the last. I realized that she was an angel, that she was a blessing in my life, and that I was so determined to do this thing that no one else could have stopped me. It had to be someone armed with all that she had in her arsenal. Seriously, I had to be detained. I really had to be shown that this was not it. So now I understand that experience was for me because I said, this is what we were doing. Rick and Marcia, and me candidating as a minister by myself, seeking my perfect Center for Spiritual Living congregation, community with which we would be able to do all of these amazing things. Well, look around. Nothing got in the way of this, by the way. That's just one example of taking something that looks like it's not good and finding out how it is for us. This might be an interaction with one individual or a whole chapter of our lives. Either way it works. Look for the good and praise it. So the thing is simply to bring along your spiritual trail mix and remember, every act of service is for everyone. Every act of service is mutually beneficial. Every act of service has spiritual principles running through it. Every act of service is empowering. Every act of service is contagious. Every act of service is for all life. And the reward is that when I get this peace, I won't have to do that again. I know a lot of spiritual teachers say the same thing. That once we get something, then it's no longer necessary to unconsciously, energetically invite people to play a role in our experience. It's like you sent out this invisible script and said, okay, people, places, everyone, okay, now you're going to be my next door neighbor, we get along great, and you're going to be my landlord, and you're going to be my employer, and you're going to be this person that invites me to do this, and so on. And somebody's going to be my enemy, When we figure it out, everybody gets to put down that script and just be who they really are. Now, of course, we're all doing this at the same time. And the only dominion you have is over your own thinking, your own believing, your own experience. And yet, because we're all connected, we're part of the collective. Every time one of us gets it, we all get it a little bit more. Every time one of us forgives and finds peace, we all get it a little bit more. Now, you know, when we were kids, we used to say, yeah, but Mom, he started it. And so we didn't want to be the first one to break that cycle. We wanted the other person to take responsibility. We know differently now. We can start something. We can start something by looking for the good and praising it in any situation. So I invite you to take all that home with you and just sort of let it, fly around and see what it means. You know what it means for you. There may be a phone call to make, an email, someone to say a little something to. There may be a quiet turning around. That's all repentance is, by the way. Just a turn around. You may decide that starting tomorrow morning you're going to do something or show up in some way that's a little different. Miracles will happen. Because the moment you discover what that whole pattern was there to show you, you can let it go. So let's just take this into a prayer and tie it up with a bow, okay? If you want to just close your eyes, I'm going to do that for all of us right now. I know that Spirit's first order and highest order is harmony. And I know that Spirit made all of creation with its first order as unity. And so I know harmony and unity are our natural states because Spirit has made us out of itself, in its image, in its likeness, and has given to us all of its qualities. Therefore, I know that our lives are harmonious and unified, that we are aware of harmony and are easily able to choose it. That harmony is always available to us, obvious, recognizable. That we are aware of unity and able to choose it, and that unity is always readily available to us and easily recognizable. And because this is so, our lives are peaceful, joy-filled, harmonious. They are creative and co-creative. We have wonderful experiences by and with ourselves and with others. These are equally sweet. And so in gratitude for this and all of the delightful ways that these truths show up, harmony and unity, I give thanks, knowing it is already done. The gift has already been given. And together, as we say yes, we open our eyes, and together we say, and so it is.